Okay, Joe's coming back up to talk about the short-term kind of research synthesis type work he's going to do.
Yeah, so I don't know if everybody's familiar with the short term, but they're supposed to be quick little papers based on ongoing activity or past activity, kind of summarizing what the states are doing and where to go from there. They're not, tend to be not long, literature search, data analysis type. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is the surface characteristics of diamond ground pavements for concrete. That's one we're working on. I think the tasks that we're looking at, we want to determine the change in surface characteristics of based on the different textures for both new and existing pavements. We're going to review the processes that produced the characteristics as well as the textures that come out. And we want to look at ride, noise, as well as friction and anything else that might apply. So what was the improvement? What are kind of the perceptions? I know as an example, I think when locally here, an interstate going into downtown Minneapolis was done, and I drive that route frequently. When it rained, it looked like you were driving on ice. It was kind of an interesting, and it kind of freaked people out a little bit. There was no loss of friction. It had great friction properties because it's a stop and start type application. But I just recall when I first drove it and it rained the first time, it kind of looked like ice that you were driving on in July. So it wasn't like you knew it wasn't ice. So the project goals on this one, we want to explore the state of the practice. What are people doing out there? What are your specifications that you already have that you're implementing? We want to look at what point do you do diamond grinding? What is your IRI? What is your smoothness at that point? Is there a particular depth? I have a project, they wanted a diamond grind where they had the two lanes parallel to each other, were offset, and it varied between a 1/2 inch to 2 inches. Well, I recommended not diamond grinding because by the time you got those lanes lined up and then smooth, you'd be pulling off about 3-4 inches of concrete and you'd never get it to drain anyways after that. Is there a particular depth that we're seeing the best performance out of? In other words, do you have to take an 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch off? What are we getting the best results out of? And then what kind of results are we getting? Based on the type, the depth, and the initial condition. And then based on your aggregates in your local area, you're getting polished aggregates. Again, that's affecting your frictional characteristics and some environmental effects. So here, all of a sudden, you're opening up that surface and you're throwing in tons and tons of salt. You're opening it up. So all that kind of information we're trying to pull together or trying to summarize. So most of these we ask the states to provide the information, and we're just synthesizing that information. We're not analyzing it or developing it or anything like that. So the first step, we want to identify the textures that are to be evaluated and the specifications that are people using. I think one of the tasks they're looking for are these performance curves, and I think we have to talk about what those would look like. And then we want to investigate the use of grinding in other states. So the grinding that's done outside the NRRA states, what are those states doing? And then just write a simple short paper that somebody can go through and really get some information on that. What are the benefits? What are the downfalls? What are people doing in neighboring states? Things like that. So again, it's meant to be a short, quick paper to provide quite a bit of information, hopefully, though. The potential benefits are, why to use, when should I use it for the best performance? Should I use it earlier or later? Where is it not recommended? Where should I not use diamond grinding? Where are we seeing bad performance in a short period of time? When am I wasting my money? Because diamond grinding, depending what you use, particularly the next gen grinding can be fairly expensive per square yard cost on that. And if your performance is low, if you're losing that after a year or two and your faulting is back or whatever you're trying to fix, you really haven't effectively spent those dollars. And then expectations for pavement management systems. What should we be putting in there for curves? You know, how effective, what kind of performance and cost effectiveness are we seeing? A second paper that we're working on, and this is for the preventive maintenance group. So we're initially tasked with doing 2 papers for each group, 2 for the flexible, 2 for the rigid, 2 for the preventive maintenance, and what's the other 2 for, there's a whole nother group. Geotechnical. So, and then the second paper for this group is that pavement preservation approaches for lightly surfaced roads. The project, we want to determine options available to local agencies to preserve roads that meet unique requirements of low volume roads. Typically, we're looking at, I believe, gravel roads in this case. I mean, how I understand lightly surfaced roads. The idea is you have a gravel road, what can I put on top of it to protect that road, to reduce the maintenance on that road, to have it perform better, just overall for the people there. So address roadway surface with aggregates, so a gravel road. It does say thin PCC, stabilized wrap, including both engineered emulsion and foamed. I think that's asphalt, not formed asphalt. But I think we're really looking at kind of gravel roads and what we're putting on there. And that has to be defined. So the goals and the tasks are not well defined for this study yet. So one of my requests is based on what is it that the states, the NRA states, really would like to get out of this. I think there is something to get out of this. In Minnesota here, I know a lot of our local counties and maybe the state, I'm not sure about that, are talking about reverting some of the roads they paved years ago back to gravel. So how are they going to manage that? Nobody really likes that idea, but you know, from a dollar standpoint, and then they'll turn them back to the cities to take care of our local governments. So what's the desired direction? I think that has yet to be established, and are there any complementary studies ongoing that would parallel this that we could piggyback on? So how I've defined it, at least at this point, is the application of a surface treatment. So going back to those thin surface treatments to a gravel road. And that could be a chip seal or an auto seal that you mentioned before, Paul. And then what are the benefits? You know, realistically, you're going to keep the dust down. You want to seal that surface to keep the water out potentially, so that the integrity of that gravel road section is maintained for a longer period of time. And reducing the loss of gravel either through dust going up in the air, surface erosion, any of those things, washouts. And the idea being that you're reducing the maintenance on that road, so you're getting something back in those terms. So those are kind of the 2 studies for the preventive group that we're working on, and again, they're short studies. I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments to be helpful.
That's going to include rats as well.
The shingles? Yeah,
Good, sure.
I think right now there isn't really a statement on what it includes or what it excludes. The definition I pulled is not in the study in the task. So that's something for the group to kind of, you know, initially discuss here soon.
There is another study about how to take a bituminous road to gravel, but
well, that's easy.
that wasn't. Yeah, I realized that. But the issue is I think and they're missing the mark on a little bit, is how to take it back maybe a step or 2, and maybe instead of putting an asphalt in, milling it and then putting a chip seal over the top of it, or moving it from a bituminous road to a lightly surfaced road, and how to walk backwards down to that. But that study isn't going to be doing any of that. And I think that that's kind of going to be a shame, because I think people aren't gonna make that jump right from bituminous to gravel. They wanna make incremental steps, I think.
But I would say this study is really significantly undefined. So I think this is an opportunity to get that input in to Jerry and define that direction coming up. So there are no more questions.
Yeah, so during our monthly conference calls, and Joe, I think was in the last one or two, and as we move forward during the next ones, we'll talk more about, this topic and this issue. So if anyone wants to join the monthly conference calls on this and provide some more input, you're welcome to do so at that time.